My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 72 fight card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and my bets. But before I do that, make sure you head on over to our socials and follow. I was hacked. I have a Windows media server that was hacked, and they got into my Google, changed all my passwords, removed my backup, my security codes, all of that. So I had no access to anything Google for about 15 hours. That includes YouTube. So we had no access to the YouTube channel for about 15 hours. I did work through Google. I didn't pay the ransom. I ended up getting my account back. But what that did was sort of wake up call, right? We don't have complete access to you. If we don't have the YouTube channel, there's 13,000 of you that I can't just immediately get in touch with. So make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. That is at We Want Picks. And also join the Discord. Discord is 100% free. 100% free. Join the Discord. That link is in the description. Make sure you do all those things so God forbid something good or even bad happens in the future, you can get those updates directly and quickly through all of those outlets. Let's talk about UFC Vegas 71. Sort of a frustrating card for me. That Bobby Green no contest took me from making money to losing $50. Very, very frustrating. So Bobby Green was in the safety parlay. So what happens is he's removed and the odds are adjusted. That went from minus 176 to minus 500 because Montel Jackson was the other leg. So the safety parlay did hit if you tailed it, but your return was far less than it was supposed to be because of that Bobby Green no contest. I also had 2 bets returned. I only bet 3 units at UFC Vegas 71. 1.5 of them were returned. Half of my money was returned to me, which sucks because I was positive these were going to hit. I had Bobby Green, $100, which is 1 unit, to land more significant strikes. Win or lose, that was going to happen. And then also Jared Gordon to get less or fewer than 2 takedowns. That was going to happen as well. Those bets were returned, which took me from black to red, unfortunately. But Jacob was up solid. If you watch that live stream, I think they made like $700 on the last 2 fights in Jacob's Fight Companion. Anyway, UFC Vegas 71, you could call it a success. You can call it a failure. Depends how you looked at it, what you did with it. But that Bobby Green no contest sort of screwed my money. And then if you remember, I bet on Junior Tafa 100%. That was an experiment. I was very clear. I think Usman wins, but I'm going to bet Junior Tafa because he was one of those fighters that opened as an underdog and closed as a favorite. We're going to continue to bet those. We're going to track it. We're going to see how that works out over the long term. As of right now, it is 5-1. 5-1. There have been 6 since we've been tracking. 6 people who opened as underdogs, closed as favorites. I'm going to start betting every single one of them. They are now 5-1. Junior Tafa, the 1. The others so far been working out. Norma Dumont was the other person on that card who ended up closing as a favorite and made money. I thought she was going to win anyway, so that wasn't a bad bet. The Junior Tafa is what it is. I thought he was going to lose. I bet it anyway. And I'm going to continue to do that. I'll just be very, very clear with you when I think somebody's going to lose, but I'm betting it purely based off of data. Don't forget, guys, we will send you $50. I pay out thousands of dollars a week, literally thousands of dollars a week. All you need to do is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, sign up with any one of our betting partners using our link. We send you $50 as a thank you. You just have to use our link. You have to make an account and make a deposit. We send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, WeWantPicks.com/bets. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay me. I'm going to cut off a piece of that and I'm going to pay you. WeWantPicks.com/bets. We talk about this every week. But premium membership is so much more than copy-paste bets. I know you guys love the bets, right? I know, obviously. Everybody wants a shortcut to riches. The reality is tricky. MMA is very, very tricky to bet on. While we have long-term success, there are highs and lows every single week. That's why the tools are so important. We have the line movement tracker. There are 2 fighters this week that opened as underdogs and seemingly will close as favorites. We'll bet on those. We'll talk about those. And the line movement tracker will help you identify those fighters. You're going to get opening odds for every single fighter. You're going to get current odds for every single fighter, as well as probability and that line movement. This is fully interactive. You can sort it. You can dig into it. And you can find your spots. using this tracker. We also have a massive spreadsheet with 38 columns of detailed data and metrics to help you find those spots. And that's what this is about. You sign up, you get the tools, you get the information, you find your own betting spots. WeWantPicks.com. It's only $10 a month to unlock literally everything. There are people charging $10 just for this spreadsheet. There are people charging $10 for DraftKings ownership projections. We're giving you all of that for free, and we quite literally have the best DraftKings ownership projections in the game. Last card, 3.37% margin of error. Next closest was 3.5. This card, 2.42 margin of error. Next closest was 3.06. We are crushing everybody, and we are doing it consistently. Every single week, week in and week out, we're smoking roto grinders. All of these massive companies charging you $50 an event, $100 a month. We're beating every single one of them, and it is included at that $10 a month price point. We also accept credit cards. Finally, you guys have been asking us, I don't have PayPal. Can you take my credit card? Well, now we can. A bunch of you signed up already using credit cards. That is available to you. WeWantPicks.com, $10 a month. Just click Become a Member. Let's go ahead and break down this card. And opening up UFC Vegas 72, we have Hailey Cowan. Her third attempt at making her UFC debut. 2 previous fights were canceled at the last minute. And she's taking on UFC newcomer Jamey-Lyn Horth. Hailey Cowan is tall. She's long. She's athletic. She's not the most technical fighter at this point in her career, but she's learning quickly. She has powerful striking, solid takedown defense, and plenty of cardio. Her athleticism sort of carries her through a lot of these fights, and it does make up for her lack of technique. She's taking on Jamey-Lyn Horth, and I'm going to be honest with you. There's almost no tape on her whatsoever. The amount of time I spent trying to find actual fight footage of Jamey-Lyn is insane, and there's almost nothing out there. You're going to find 3,000 interviews. She'll do an interview with anybody, anywhere, for any amount of time about any topic, but the fight footage is hard to come by. Essentially, she's famous for getting her leg blown out and then sticking with it, staying tough, coming back to win that fight. She is a striker primarily. She moves really well. She's got solid accuracy, solid power. She mixes up various kickboxing techniques. So she's going to come in with her hands, work your legs, come back up to your head with those kicks. She likes to pressure forward as well. Based off what I could find, she does have solid fight IQ, and she follows game plans really well, like listens to her coaches, then goes back out there and does what they told her to do. I should note, Horth is one of those flip fighters. She opened at a plus 175 underdog. Plus 175. She is now minus 105. She's not quite the favorite yet, but that movement is incredible, and I imagine she will become the favorite in the next day or so, or maybe by the time you're even watching this. Listen, don't do anything with this fight. Just do not do, nothing. Hailey Cowan, she's big, she's strong, she's athletic. Jamey Horth is a ghost that lives in the shadows of YouTube, and we have no way of knowing what's going to happen in this fight. I do expect it to be fun. Both Hailey and Jamey like to come forward, but let's just enjoy this fight. Let's just watch it, enjoy, keep our money. There are safer places. You're going to notice that hard jump cut there. I don't know what the hell was happening with my throat, but we have Brian Kelleher taking on Newson in the second fight of the night. This fight order is probably going to change. There's only 11 fights on this card as of right now. We lost 3. There's a new main event. This card is all over the place. No way Brian Kelleher is the second fight of the night, but just in case he is, we have Brian Kelleher taking on Newson. And Brian is a tried and true vet at this point. He has almost 40 professional fights with 8 wins in the UFC. He's well-rounded. He's got clean boxing, decent takedowns, plenty of cardio. His UFC record is not the best, but most of his losses are to really tough guys like Ricky Simone, Umar Nurmagomedov, and both of them grappled him early. Brian's always going to be pushing the pace, always going to be coming forward, and always going to be looking for that win. And he's taking on the very athletic Newson. He's got power, takedowns, and an upside-down UFC record, unfortunately. He is a bit hit or miss in his fights, and you can be unsure about who's going to show up, right? We've seen him have great timing, big power, solid pressure, but we've also seen him be gun-shy and easily taken down. He's coming off that decision loss to Sergey Morozov, where he gave up 6 takedowns. And Journey's going to be younger, more athletic, more powerful than Kelleher, but there is something to be said about veteran savvy. I like Kelleher to get the win here. I think he's going to know when to strike, know when to wrestle, and it's going to keep Journey sort of on his back foot and reacting the whole time instead of just letting his hands fly and settling in. So Kelleher's the pick, but I don't love him at minus 175. I would like to get a little bit of a discount on that. So I'm just going to use the line movement track. I'm going to monitor that. And if Brian Kelleher gets, closer to minus 200, even if you get him in the minus 190s, then I may jump on something there. But at almost 3-1, a little bit gun shy. Then we got Stephanie Egger taking on Irina Alekseeva, who they call Russian Ronda, which I don't know why they call her Russian Ronda, because she's a sambo fighter, not a judo fighter. But anyway, we got Stephanie Egger, who's a solid grappler. She has a judo background. She's got nice judo trips, nice takedowns. She mostly sets them up against the cage, and once she gets that takedown, which she has done in every single one of her UFC fights, she likes to settle in and look for submissions. She's incredibly inactive on her feet. She doesn't do much on her feet. And if she can't get the takedown, she really doesn't have anything to offer. She's coming off that second round submission win over Aylin Perez. She's taking on that Russian Ronda, Irina Alekseeva, who is a world Sambo champion, who literally just walks forward, winging punches from her hips. And she's going to walk you down like the Terminator, throwing wild, and then look to toss and grapple if you're tied up. Like most Sambo athletes, if you don't know what Sambo is, it's essentially, they wear a gi, but not the pants. There's a lot of throws. It is combat. Lots of submissions. It's like an MMA fight, but softer. It's hard to describe, but Sambo fighters essentially have takedowns, they have throws, and they have jiu-jitsu, right? Not really shooting doubles, so it's a lot of throws and trips. They have the submissions, but it's mostly like arm bars, things like that. MMA, but at 75% with a gi. Anyway, she likes to come in wild. She throws big. If she can get close, she'll try to grapple, right? She'll try to Sambo. But like most Sambo athletes, she does have very solid submissions, and she has those trips, takedowns, throws. She does take risks, and she gets taken down because of those risks, but she doesn't care because she likes to grapple off her back. So she'll come in. She'll throw wild. People can take her down. They could have success because she's overcommitting to those strikes. She'll be on her back, and she's pretty much fine with it. She'll throw up triangles. She'll try to work from there because she does have that sort of grappling in her blood. Stephanie Egger is a very large 3-1 favorite here, and I get it, right? She has the higher level MMA experience. She's far more polished, but she could potentially get Irina to the cage, take her down with her judo, and then get submitted basically the exact same way Stephanie lost at Bueno Silva 2 fights ago. So I'm still going to pick Stephanie for sure because of just the straight up carelessness that Irina has when she's in her, sort of those striking exchanges. But I'm not laying out 3-1 on Stephanie Egger. So Stephanie's going to be the pick. Hopefully we get a discount a little bit later. We're going to see what Irina's made of here, and we're definitely going to see her on her back. So we're going to find out how good her grappling actually is. Then we got Cody Durden taking on Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson making a pretty quick turnaround. I mean, we got to give this guy credit. He has been insanely active since he hopped into the UFC. And he's taking on Cody Durden. Cody Durden, heavy-handed wrestler. He averages more than 4 takedowns per fight. He likes to come forward, throw that big looping power, and then look for those takedowns. He's going to chain wrestle, continue diving at legs until he gets it to the ground. He's taking on Charles Johnson, who's a busy technical striker with solid takedown defense and really nice hand speed. He's got good output at almost 5 significant strikes landed per minute, and he lands an impressive 141 strikes in a close win over Zalgas. And that's the story of Charles Johnson. Very busy striker who lands at a solid pace. Outside of his win over returning Jimmy Flick, we haven't really seen that power, right? He's got the volume, but he's not necessarily rocking people. He's not really putting them out with one punch at a time. He did it to Jimmy Flick, but Jimmy Flick was coming back after years away. He is coming off that close loss to Ode Osborne where he landed more total and more significant strikes, but he was taken down 3 times. And right now, Charles is sitting at a minus 185 favorite. And I get it because the skill gap on their feet is going to be incredibly wide. But Ode Osborne, a striker, just took Charles down 3 times in that fight. And Cody's a much better wrestler than Ode is. So while I do think Charles is going to win this fight, I think he was probably caught off guard by Ode's wrestling. So he'll probably be more prepared for Cody's wrestling because he knows that's what Cody's going to do. it is a little bit risky to bet on a guy at almost 2-1 who was just out-wrestled by a striker. Ultimately, the pick is still going to be Charles Johnson. I don't have a bet yet. I think he's going to defend the takedowns because I think he knows they're coming, right? With Buday, I don't think he knew they were coming. But Cody could absolutely just wrestle, and then have some success. We saw Zalgas sort of hold Charles Johnson against the cage and do a little bit of that, have a tiny bit of success with the grappling. And that's the fight. I'm using the Zalgas fight to really measure Charles Johnson's takedown defense, and it looked pretty good there. So I think Charles Johnson is going to win, and I'm more conservative than most of you. I'm definitely more conservative than Jacob, so I'm not going to bet on Charles Johnson here. What I am hoping is we're going to get a wild Cody Durden, right? He averages 4 takedowns per fight. I hope we're going to get like a 3 takedown line on him when those props drop, and then I'll do the under. That's probably going to be the bet here. We just got that with Jared Gordon, right? They gave him a 2 takedown line. That was canceled because it was a no contest, but I bet the under there, and I was going to hit that. So hopefully we get a high takedown line for Cody Durden. I'll bet the under. That'll be where I make my money on this fight. If you're not a premium member, become one. It's only $10 a month. What are we talking about? And if you are a premium member, link your Discord, because on Fridays, when those takedowns and strike line prop bets drop, those fly. Like, those odds fly. So we get them early because Jacob and I are literally just hitting refresh, watching those come out. We hit them, we throw them in Discord, you get the alert to your phone instantly, and then if you like it, hop on. If you don't, that's totally fine, but you can't really wait till Friday afternoon or Saturday morning for those prop bets because those odds go absolutely crazy. Then we got Natan Levy taking on Pete Rodriguez, and spoiler alert, Natan Levy is one of my most confident picks on this card. He's a nonstop grappler. He averages an insane 5.37 takedowns per fight. He has slick takedowns, slick BJJ. He continues coming forward no matter how tired he is. His striking is just okay, and unfortunately, it's not really enough to get him through fights on its own, right? He's going to need to wrestle to get through pretty much all of his fights. He's riding a 2-fight win streak with a combined 15 takedowns, but he has managed to give up a round in each one of those fights, right? He's winning 29-28 decisions. He's not winning 30-27s. He's taking on Pete Rodriguez. Pete Rodriguez is just straight up brawler. He throws bombs. He comes forward no matter what. He has 6 professional fights, but he did manage to get a UFC win under his belt when he put away Mike Jackson. Pete's powerful but sloppy, and anyone with clean striking technique is going to blow through him, and people with some solid grappling should be able to blow through him as well. And listen, good for Pete for getting to the UFC, right? Good for him for getting that opportunity and taking it. And he has a legitimate knockout win under his belt on the biggest stage in MMA. And there's people a lot more talented than him that have not had that. There's a lot of people that have come into the UFC, gone 0-3, and then are gone. So good for Pete. But Natan is going to run through this guy. Natan should be light years ahead of Pete everywhere except raw power. I see Natan getting takedowns, as he always does, and probably a submission will. I think Natan's going to get a submission here. I think it's going to be an inside the distance win. Obviously, Pete is going to be wild. He has power. This is MMA. Anything can happen, but Natan should get the win. I think he is safe for all of your parlays, and you should probably hop on him before that line goes crazy, because people are going to look and be like, what the hell is this? A legitimate UFC fighter with a very promising career taking on just a really tough, powerful guy. You got to go with the legit guy. Natan Levy is the pick. I'm going to figure out how to put a whole bunch of money on him. Then we have Julian Erosa taking on UFC newcomer Fernando Padilla. Julian Erosa is a long guy for the weight class. We talk about Fernando Padilla's length. We're going to talk about that in a minute, how tall he is, how long he is. Julian Erosa, very, very similar. He's long for this weight class, and he uses his length really well, both on his feet and on the ground. He's a well-rounded guy. He's got high output striking, and he's more than 6 significant strikes landed per minute. And he does have solid wrestling as well, with almost 2 takedowns per fight. He's dangerous everywhere, and he's an absolute dog. But he is coming off that knockout loss to Alex Caceres, where he was the big favorite, meaning Julian was the favorite. UFC newcomer Fernando Padilla. He is also very long for this weight class, and he likes to fight in the pocket and keep it dirty, so he doesn't use that length. He uses it on the ground when he's going to tie you up, work those long guy submissions. But when he's on his feet striking, he gets close. He wants to fight in the pocket. He wants to create a Muay Thai plum, and he wants to go from there. So he does not use his length or range striking. He is aggressive when he's striking. He plots forward. He's got pocket-style boxing. Then he works the clinch. He'll throw up big knees. And if you're unlucky enough to get to the ground with him, he's going to use his length, wrap you up, and work various submissions. He likes to come forward and take risks, but he has no wrestling whatsoever. The dude's not going to defend the takedown. He's not going to get a takedown. So if he wants this on the ground, he's going to have to nerd it up and pull guard. Fernando's super slick on the ground, very dangerous everywhere, but his absolute lack of wrestling or any sort of striking guard is going to get him into some trouble here. Julian should be able to blast through Fernando's wide open guard. He should be able to keep the fight where he wants to, because Fernando's not going to take Julian down. And if Julian wants to take Fernando down, he can. Fernando is dangerous as hell. He can win this fight anywhere. Julian's going to be the pick, very low confidence pick. I'm probably going to do an inside the distance decision, no action bet on Fernando because he is tough. I don't see him getting stopped, and he absolutely is live for a finish. Jacob had that bet for Bruno Silva this past weekend. We do those bets all the time. I think it's pretty safe here. Those are great bets when you have an underdog who is not going to get finished. Great bets, because if they get a finish themselves, you get paid. If they lose a decision, who cares? You get your money back. So I'm probably going to hit that. That'll drop most likely on Tuesday. When it does, I'll let you know. When we do our breakdowns, you'll hear it there as well. Make sure you're a premium member, because when you sign up, it's only $10. You get access to everything, including alerts on your phone, and you can get that information instantly when we find some of these spots. Then we have a couple of heavyweights. We got Martin Buday taking on Jake Collier. Martin Buday is a powerful striker. He's got heavy hands, 10 stoppage wins. He has solid footwork, and he throws everything with intent. The knock on him, though, is that he can be gun shy, right? He's a little hittable. He doesn't throw his hands as much as you would like. He does have a negative striking differential, and he can be a slow starter. He's coming off his first decision of his career where, frankly, it was a bad decision. He should have lost that fight. His strikes were doubled, and there were 0 takedowns. He should have lost that fight, but they gave him the nod. He's taking on Jake Collier. Jake Collier is a busy striker, does not have much power, but he does have a ton of volume and impressive cardio, considering he's a 185-pounder that just ballooned up to heavyweight. He doesn't wrestle often, but he does have takedowns in his back pocket. He even took down Andrei Arlovski twice in that loss. Close fight, but that was definitely a loss. He's coming off the second-round KO loss to Chris Barnett back in September. Jake Collier has had some slight line movement, right? He opened at a plus 100 underdog. He's now sitting at the minus 119 favorite. This is one of those flips. Right now, I mentioned, since we've been tracking, people who opened as underdogs and closed as favorites are 5-1. So the stats right now say that Jake Collier is going to win. I personally disagree. Just like last week with Muhammad Usman. I thought Usman was going to win. The line movement said that that was not the case. Usman ended up winning. That's the one, right? That's the one time that that we've been tracking where the underdog that closes the favorite lost. I think Jake Collier is going to lose, even though the line movement is saying that he should win. I like Martin Buday here. I think we're getting a discount on him, frankly, because of his last fight. He did not look good. Probably should have lost, but he's a powerful guy. He can come forward. He can almost put anybody in the division out. He's coming off that first decision of his career, which wasn't great, but we know he can at least make it to the scorecards, right? We know he's not a 5 minutes of energy and then got nothing left to offer kind of guy. Collier was just put out. He was just knocked out by Chris Barnett. And once that chin goes, sometimes it is hard to get it back. Buday's going to be the pick. I do have a half a unit bet on him at minus 110. For experiment reasons, I'm probably going to bet Jake Collier as well, just to track this whole underdogs closing as favorite movement. So I may have conflicting bets here. We'll see what I do with that. But at the very least, we are going to keep track of it. Again, 5-1 when underdogs have flipped to favorites and closed as favorites. So we'll keep an eye on this. We'll continue to track that and let the stats drive some of our decisions as well. But me, personally, my brain, my insight, my research is saying Martin Buday is going to win this fight because he's got the power. He should be able to defend whatever takedowns come his way. And Jake Collier, I think, is on the downslide of his career at this point. Then we have the always athletic Waldo Cortes-Acosta taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Marcos Rogerio de Lima is a big, powerful heavyweight who has striking. He's got grappling. He's got wrestling as well. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the most athletic guy in the division, but he can land heavy. He can get takedowns, and he works BJJ really, really well. He's coming off that submission win over Andrei Arlovski, but if you remember, he dropped him first, and then he pounced on him to get that done. Taking on the undefeated Waldo Cortes-Acosta. He's a fun, athletic striker who is tough as nails, and he has very real power. He does get flashy, and at times just has decided to dance mid-fight, which is fun, but some of those fights, some of the dancing, he wasn't necessarily running away with that decision when he did it. He lands an insane almost 8 significant strikes per minute, and he showed us just how tough he actually is in that Jared Vanderaa fight where he ate what felt like 200 leg kicks. He's coming off that win over Chase Sherman where he landed 147 strikes to Chase's 66. And this is a really tough fight to pick because the odds makers agree with me, right? This is dead even. Dead even. And it's tricky. Marcos de Lima should probably be the slight favorite here because what he lacks in raw athleticism, he makes up for with experience and cage time. I can see Marcos working forward, getting the takedowns, and just big brothering Waldo here. Waldo's going to be much faster, much more athletic, but I do think that Marcos can slow that down, sort of take away the speed, the athleticism, drag this fight out, and then win a boring decision. Absolutely no bet here whatsoever, but this is going to be a great test to see how good Waldo is. Is he really going to be this undefeated prospect that's going to sort of rise to the top? Or is his, 9 fights compared to 28 fights experience going to catch up to him? Marcos is the pick for me. Like I said, I think he's going to be able to slow down, take the athleticism away from Waldo, close that gap, hold him against the cage, get a takedown. I think he's going to be able to do a lot of that stuff. But if Waldo's circling, he's going to light up Marcos. So no bet, but Marcos Rogerio de Lima is going to be the pick. And we got Cody Brundage taking on Rodolfo Vieira. This fight was supposed to happen all the way back in November, but it has been rebooked. We got Cody Brundage. He's a heavy-handed wrestler. He can be a bit of a feast or famine kind of guy, but he has no problem coming forward, throwing heavy, and then working in his wrestling. He does have pretty high wrestling background that he brings into this cage. He averages just over 3 takedowns per fight, but he might not want to go to the ground with Rodolfo in this matchup. He's coming off a first-round knockout loss to Michal Olenjachuk, where he had 3 takedowns, but literally landed 0. Literally landed 0 strikes in that fight. He's taking on world champion BJJ Rodolfo Vieira, and he is a world-level BJJ competitor. He's got more than 1 international title. He's incredibly explosive with his takedown attempts, but his technique can sort of get the best of him, right? He doesn't have the best wrestling technique, but he just blasts through people when he does want to shoot those takedowns. His game plan is always going to be to get it to the ground. He can still have some success on his feet with clean striking. He managed to land 86 significant strikes on Chris Curtis, which is the most anyone has landed on Chris in the UFC, including Kelvin Gastelum. So Rodolfo Vieira had success striking with Chris Curtis. Could potentially use some of that success here as well. We've broken this fight down before. I mentioned this was supposed to happen in November. Vieira pulled out, and now we've got it all over again. And I've got Rodolfo Vieira winning here, right? Cody's always going to be live for that big one-punch knockout, and even potentially a boring wet blanket kind of win. But thankfully for us, Cody likes to come forward and make things happen. So despite not being the better wrestler, I see Rodolfo getting a takedown. I see Cody coming forward, throwing big, and then Rodolfo shooting under it. He's strong, he's explosive, and then getting that takedown there. So I think Rodolfo's going to get this done. He's going to be much better BJJ. His striking actual technique is going to be better than Cody. The raw power 100% is going to be Cody. Rodolfo's going to be the pick here. I'm deciding if I want to place a bet because let's not forget, he had that wild cardio dump in that fight against Fluffy Hernandez a few fights ago. He does seem to have gotten that under control. He didn't gas big against Chris Curtis. I don't know if I'm confident enough to spend the money. He's a pretty big favorite here in the minus 270s. Rodolfo should absolutely win. He should absolutely win this fight. I'm probably going to make something happen. Maybe I parlay him with a Natan Levy, go the grapplers parlay or something to that effect. But Rodolfo should win. I'm pretty confident in that pick. We have a solid co-main event. We have Caio Borralho taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. Caio Borralho, 13-1 in his career. He's doing really, really well. He's a legitimate prospect at this point. He's a very slick grappler with solid submissions and well-timed takedowns. He's got a long stance, very loose on his feet, and then he explodes into double legs for the takedowns. He has belts in both judo and jiu-jitsu and uses all of those techniques in his fights. Caio's quickly becoming a contender at 185, but he did look pretty bad in his last fight. He was a bit sloppy. He kept trying guillotines, and that was costing him positions. That was so frustrating to watch that. But he's taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. He's a very good striker. He's got fast hands, a ton of pressure. He does have power as well, right? We saw that in back-to-back knockout wins over Cody Brundage and Sam Alvey. And while he is dangerous on his feet, he does have a whole bunch of grappling holes. I mentioned Caio looked bad in his last fight, and I think that's because he was fighting somebody that was looking to take him down. So he's jumping guillotine, which was really frustrating. But in this fight, he's going to be the one looking for the takedowns. Caio's going to be the one pushing the grappling pressure. So I do think Caio's going to get this done. Hopefully we don't see him jumping guillotines or any of that absolute nonsense. I see him ducking under sort of the very fast strikes from Michal. I see Caio getting the takedowns, getting it to the ground early, and probably getting Michal out of there, frankly. So Caio's a very clear pick for me. I'm very confident in him. I'm hoping his cardio is buttoned up. He got a little tired in that last fight, but I think Caio gets this done, and I think it's just the grappling holes on Michal is going to be his undoing. So Caio Borralho, confident pick for me. Then we have the new main event of the evening. We have Yadong Song taking on Ricky Simón. Obviously, everybody knows this is supposed to be last week's co-main event. It is now this week's main event. And the real question becomes, do you think 5 rounds changes this fight? If you do, then you need to reevaluate. If you don't, well, then whatever you thought last week should stay the same this week. We got Yadong Song. He's a technical striker. He moves really well. He's fast. He hits hard. He's athletic. But he is hittable, right? He gets hit with almost 4 significant strikes per minute. He throws everything with power, but that does leave him open to takedowns. He has okay submission defense, but he's very good at creating space and then working back to his feet. He does like to dictate the pace, but doing that against a grappler like Ricky can be hard. He's coming out that stoppage loss to Corey Sandhagen where it was 2-2 going into the 5th round, but ultimately he did break there. Ricky Simón is a high-energy wrestler. This guy's going to dive on leg after leg with 100% energy over and over until he gets a takedown and potentially a submission. His biggest asset has been his gas tank and his willingness to stick to a game plan. He's not a technical striker. It's really there just to set up his wrestling, but he did showcase his power. He knocked out a Sun Sao. He dropped Jack Shore and then hopped on that submission there. Last week, this was a co-main event. It was 3 rounds. This week, it is 5. I was on Ricky last week. I even had a bet on him at -137. He was one of these guys that open as an underdog and close as a favorite. This week, however, things are a little different. He opened as a favorite because they took down the line, because if it just moved cards, they would have left it up. But the fact that the rounds changed, they took the bet down, they re-added it. So Ricky opened as a favorite this time. 5 rounds does kind of change things for me, right? We haven't necessarily seen Ricky slow down, so I can't say he's going to have cardio issues, but we also haven't seen him in a 5-round fight. Song, in theory, has 2 extra rounds to work with, and if he can defend some takedowns early, those extra rounds are going to start to build up. That damage is going to build up over time. He can have much more success later if Ricky starts to slow down. This is a super tough fight to pick because 2 out of 3 of Song's losses are 100% because he was taken down. And we have only ever seen Ricky struggle with takedowns in one fight, and that was against Uriah Faber, and he was just knocked out early. Song's going to be well coached. He's getting the wrestling looks. He's at Team Alpha Male. But is that enough? Is that enough to stop somebody like Ricky Simón, who was just literally going to non-stop wrestle? I'm still going to lean Ricky here. Ricky's the pick. But I have a just this much less confidence in him, so I don't have a bet on him. You are going to get a little bit of a discount this week versus last week. He's -130 instead of what I got him at, which was -137. Ricky Simón's going to be the pick here. We'll see how this goes. We'll see when the props drop. I will absolutely find a spot here, but this is a really, really solid main event for a fight night. Don't forget, I was hacked. I had no access to YouTube for about 15 hours. And again, full panic ensued. And I realized we don't have enough followers on our other platforms. If we don't have access to YouTube, there's almost 13,000 people that won't get updates from us. Make sure you follow all of our socials and join the Discord. Discord is 100% free. That link is in the description. And follow all the socials. This way, God forbid something happens to YouTube, we have full access to you. You can get updates very quickly. And if you go to WeWantPicks.com, there's a form. You can just give us your email address, and then so we can stay in touch with you there. Do all of those things if you want to make sure you're always up to date with what is going on. Don't forget, premium membership is only $10 a month. I mean, it's absolutely nothing. Even if you do nothing with our bets or insight, right? Let's say you think Angelo's an idiot. I'm never listening to his picks. I'm not looking at his bets. Put that aside. The $10 is still the greatest value in this space because you're going to get tools and information like the line movement tracker. This is just straight up data presented to you in an interactive format. You're going to get 38 columns of detailed data and metrics in spreadsheets and interactive charts and graphs. And that is important because you can use this information to find your own spots. You're also going to get things like DraftKings ownership projections. Again, this is data. This is information. And we quite literally have the best DraftKings ownership projections in the game. 2.42% margin of error for last event. The event before that, 3.37% margin of error. Literally nobody on planet Earth had better margins than us. Not even the giant companies like the Roto Grinders who are charging $100 for their premium, if that's what you want to call it. And we have a full new look and experience for premium members. We're adding analysts, and the reason I like to highlight Artem here is he breaks down all events. He broke down 2 Bellator cards last week. He's breaking down every PFL, giving you your bets, giving you line leans and things like that for all events, not just UFC. And we're taking credit cards. That was one of the biggest requests we had from you guys is, hey, I don't have a PayPal. Can I just use a credit card? Well, now you can. WeWantPicks.com, $10 a month. Just click become a member. And if you want $50, I'll send you 50. That's 5 months worth of membership. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use our links to sign up with any one of our betting partners. Make a deposit. I will send you $50 as a thank you.